To talk about the history of the Coco de Mer, we first have to go back very, very far back in time to the age of the supercontinent Gondwana.
160 million years ago, Madagascar and India were one landmass, and then they separated off from Gondwana and from Africa and Antarctica and Australia. When they broke off, they were moving forward, and then about 65 million years ago, India and Madagascar separated from each other. And that was when the Dhaka Plateau was created, or the Western Ghats in India.
Okay.
So when the Western Ghats are connected to these same mountains in Madagascar.
Right.
And there was another piece which was separated from India even later that is the core of the Seychelles. And then it's been slowly sinking because it's getting more and more dense through time. That's why all the islands are made of granite.
Right.
Because you shouldn't have granite islands.
No.
Granite only forms in the center of continents under huge pressure deep underground.
Right.
Where lava goes up and then it solidifies before reaching the surface. So it can't form in an ocean. And that's the best evidence why.
Yeah.
And also the animal life and plant life here too.
Early palm trees that existed on Gondwana were separated from each other when it broke apart. These plants followed a different evolutionary path in their new environments, and this happened 100 million years before the Seychelles broke off from the rest of the Indian subcontinent. For 65 million years, those palm trees lived in isolation in the Seychelles. In this sort of environment, the trees were relatively protected. So although I'm sure they did change over that huge period of time, the Coco de Mer offers a glimpse of what the ancestors of modern palm trees were like.
In the times of the Gondwana land, they could have a bigger nut, like the Coco de Mer. Because the time that the continents move, the only part remain is the part of Pralin, Curies, Round Island, Saint-Pierre, in this area where the Coco de Mer grows. The rest of the plateau is gone. Only this part can remain on the earth. Nature keep that like a souvenir for the humanity that they come, they see how the nut look like in the old days.
The Coco de Mer is the largest nut in the world, and a possible reason for that is known as Foster's rule. This is a phenomenon that occurs on isolated islands which causes large life forms to evolve into smaller ones and small life forms to evolve into bigger ones. For instance, on the island of Malta, fossils were found of adult elephants that were only 3 feet tall. The reason for this is that over time, large elephants, which would have needed more food to survive, had a harder time to find sustenance within the confines of a small island. So the larger elephants would end up starving to death, and smaller elephants that needed less food, they had a greater chance of survival. So over time, large elephants evolved into tiny ones that would have been more fit for the environment they were in. On the flip side, small animals would have less predators on an island. So rodents that would normally use their small stature in order to evade predation, they wouldn't need that quality anymore to survive. So over time, larger rodents would become more commonplace. This happens with plants as well.
The reason it grows like the way it does is because the Coco de Mer plans that every seed will germinate. So it's giving its seed the highest possibility, the most energy to sprout and grow, because there's nothing that will eat it. There's no predation. There's nothing. You know. So if a seed is going to fall, it wants that seed to survive. So it's just like humans. We have, like a few children. They live a long time. We put a lot of energy into it, versus rats, which have hundreds and hundreds of children, and only a few will survive.
Right. It's like Quality, not quantity.
Exactly. So that's the goal of the Coco de Mer.
Coco de Mer is going for quality.
Yeah.
And yeah, because of this sort of situation where it was like so separate from everything else, you know, just in the middle of the Indian Ocean, it doesn't have the same sort of issues that Coco de Mer that would have had like on Madagascar or India. So without those sorts of problems, it can flourish here, but now it doesn't flourish anywhere but here. Okay, so now that the Seychelles has formed and the Coco de Mer has grown, now what? Well, up until the late 18th century, the islands were uninhabited. However, there are a few instances throughout history where a few people have set foot on the islands. Traders from the Middle East who peddled the expensive Coco de Mer may have known about the islands, but of course wanted to keep that location to themselves. Between 200 and 300 AD, ships sailing from Borneo may have landed on the Seychelles before eventually making their way to Madagascar. Which, as an aside, but really interesting to note, is that if you go to Madagascar today, you'll actually see a huge Asian population there. These are the descendants of those people who went there back in 200 to 300 AD, including my friend Eric here, who was my guide when I was in Madagascar. These early settlers may be part of the reason why today the Coco de Mer is so popular in Malay magic and in herbal medicine out in that part of the world. The Seychelles, however, were not officially claimed by any country until the French did in 1756. They did this while navigating a faster trade route between India and Mauritius, which was a French colony at the time. At this point, the islands did not have any settlers and were still being explored. It was on a separate expedition about 10 years later when the mystery of the Coco de Mer was officially solved. And that was partially thanks to another rare species. See that tortoise over there? That's actually one of the big reasons why Coco de Mer kind of like blew up. Giant tortoises, they were actually like all over the world, but they're delicious. So naturally, over time, the species got wiped out almost everywhere, except for very remote areas like in the Seychelles and Galapagos. They were isolated there, protected from humans. French colonists in Mauritius made their way over to the Seychelles. They saw that there were giant tortoises there. So they went there to get the giant tortoises in order to eat them. One of the main people on that crew was a man named Paré. He went there originally to get the tortoises to eat, but when he was doing it, he saw the Coco de Mer fruits on the ground. And when he saw that, he just like freaked out because he knew how much those were worth, and he finally discovered where those fruits were coming from. They've been like coming up ashore for so many years, and people created a mythology around it, but nobody knew the actual source. And he found the source. He knew the value of those fruits, so what he did is he filled his ship full of them and took them back to Mauritius. After that, people knew where the Coco de Mer came from. Up until then, it was just a thing of legends. Another important figure in the history of the Coco de Mer is the British general Charles George Gordon. A deeply religious man and a devoted Christian, he was fond of trying to find the locations of various holy sites mentioned in the Bible. His most popularly known location is what he argued to be the site of Jesus' crucifixion, which he claimed to be Skull Hill, which is a location near the Garden Tomb in Jerusalem. Some accept his theory even today, and sometimes the site is even referred to as Gordon's Calvary. When he saw the Coco de Mer, he believed that he discovered the Tree of Knowledge. According to his writings, the Seychelles were the remnants of a sunken Garden of Eden, sunken, of course, by the great flood mentioned in the Bible. In his writings, he went on at length trying to support his claim. He believed that the topography of the Seychelles was similar to how Eden is explained in various religious texts, and that if you matched up certain rivers today with ones that are mentioned in the Bible, that there was a connection. In a biography written by Gordon's brother, a sampling of 14 pages from Gordon's writing is given in order to support his theory. Here is just a very small sampling. The Euphrates rises in Armenia and is joined by the Tigris, which Daniel, Book 4, identifies with Hiddekel. And these rivers have to be connected with the great central river of Eden. If the water in the Indian Ocean is removed, a deep cleft runs down the Persian Gulf to near the Seychelles Islands. Stephen and I finally reached our fruit holy land, the Valle de Mai, a nature preserve on Praslin with the largest concentration of Coco de Mer trees in the entire world. It seems like people here have a pretty good attitude towards like the sexual appearance of the fruit and the male catkin as well. Look at the bathrooms here. This is the men's room. There's a guy holding up the male part. And this is the handicapped one, which is also very, very funny. It's both for men and women, as you can see in the wheel there. Here's the women's room. Yeah, a little note about the Valle de Mai is that there's several trails. There's one that like the tour guides will take you on, and then there are a few others that are like a little bit longer. We chose to go on one of the longer trails, and we're alone. Like I haven't seen another person around here in what, like 30 minutes, an hour or something. Yeah. No one's taking this path. So if you come here, it might be worth your while to like do the tour, like do the guided tour. I hear it's really good. We're doing it on our own because we like did our own research before, and we also missed the tour.
And we met an expert for a little bit too.
I would talk to an expert. So we're not doing the guided tour. We're doing this ourselves. So I would recommend actually doing the guided tour and then doing one of the larger rings on your own if you want to have kind of like a meditative experience with Coco de Mer. Like it's very peaceful through here. I wouldn't want to be with a big group. I would maybe do that to get the information and then come through again and, try to take it in yourself. Like if you want to take photos or video, I would take the tour to learn and then go through on your own for like an hour or so to get like whatever you want. So that's what we're doing. Here's a sign, caution, falling nuts. Because the trail runs right through here. The trees actually grow in from the trail. And as you can see, this one right here, look at that. They're like right up there, right above your head. And I can actually see that one dangling, moving a little bit. It's a real concern. Because that thing is ready to drop, too. Like, those things look very, very ripe. So just imagine that thing falling and hitting you on the head. I mean, that would probably kill you. Coco de Mer is not the only thing that grows here. You can see some Artocarpus fruits. Here's a nice jackfruit.
to get an idea of like how big the Coco de Mer are. You can see there's some jackfruit. Quiet bird. You can see there's whoa.
That's
that
an
actually worked.
endangered local parrot.
Oh hey, endangered local parrots are interrupting my shot. Well, there's you can see the jackfruit there, right next to the Coco de Mer to show scale. They're about the same size, which is pretty impressive. Those Coco de Mer are huge.
And jackfruit is the largest tree fruit.
Yeah, jackfruit's the largest tree fruit. Coco de Mer is the largest and also the heaviest nut in the world. So we've got some Guinness World Record contenders right there, duking it out for number one.
It is pretty impressive in this forest right now. It feels like I'm walking around in like Jurassic Park. The trees are huge. They're so much bigger than a regular coconut tree. They're just like towering above me and making me feel like a miniature person. I feel like a child in here walking around. It's so tall. And it's also very cool. There's so much shade. These are such like big shady trees. As I say that, like I fit like a crack. You can see like how bright the sun is with like that beating down on me right now, right? So you get a lot of coverage. The lighting in here is very, very odd, just because of how much shade these trees produce. But it is a super, super hot day out there. But in here, it's probably like 100-something degrees like out there. But in here, it's maybe like 60. It's actually very comfortable walking around in here just because of how shady it is. But I stand here and I feel like I'm gonna die. It's like so hot out right now. Ooh, this feels nice. Hello, so there's going to be 5 parts in this very special episode on the Coco de Mer, so be sure to click subscribe if you're not already, and click that little bell, that way you are notified when the next part is out. There's also going to be a whole bunch of extra features over on my Patreon page. More information about that in the description below. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.